Okay, Hunger Games 2 or Hunger Games Catching Fire or Catching Fire. This, of course, is the second movie in what will actually, I guess, become a trilogy of movies based upon the Mockingbird books or Mockingjay books, even though the third book is going to become two movies. So this one, of course, is the Empire Strikes Back of the quadrilogy. And as always, they do the severe over-the-topness of the capital, which makes me feel like I'm watching any sort of award ceremony or anything that's pretty much on E, with everyone having their costumes done by Lady Gaga and people having just brilliant white veneers. And like in the first movie, it's over the top to the point that it's a parody of how over the top that it is, even going to the point of having the Roman way of doing things. You know, they're eating so many things, they have a drink that you take which makes you throw up to then make you gorge yourself even more. Of course, the capital is not very happy with Katniss, who has kind of somewhat become a revolutionary style figure. So they then decided to get the last 24 victors. So approximately you're looking at 20, well, they decided to do this year's 24 participants based upon the pool of surviving victors. So they go through that process. That happens about a little over an hour into the movie. They actually begin the Battle Royale portion of Hunger Games. And if someone didn't really have any section of dialogue, don't worry, you're not going to see them except for the cannon explosion when their picture becomes at the very top. I will say I do actually enjoy once it becomes the actual Hunger Games portion. Once they kind of remove a lot more of the political portion to it, because ironically if you watch the news, that's what we're currently living. And it has this really great abrupt ending to it. I mentioned Empire Strikes Back because it kind of ends in a moment when you're like, and just, oh. That's a very abrupt ending. But it does mean that the last two movies are going to have one singular idea, and it's going to make it very entertaining to watch. This is a really good movie. The acting is done very well. You know, ironically, when people are in the quieter moments, that's when you see really solid performances. When there are too many people on screen at one time, it just becomes a cacophony. It's almost like they got too much going on at one time, and instead of trying to focus on the minute details, it's just a massive wash of information happening at one time. Now, I did read a report where somebody said that Hunger Games essentially is the future that we're going to be living in. I take umbrage to that because, ironically, when they show the Capitol Gala and it's very over the top and super elaborate, it reminds me of pretty much whenever they show footage of after an award ceremony, where the super rich are given free gifts from each other by the super rich, and how they live these undeniably opulent lifestyles where if you go to a place like any inner city, you see people who are pretty much starving and trying to kill each other just for basic survival. And maybe that's, I try to go to movies for an escape, and ironically, the majority of this movie is that constant push into your face of the people who have it all are going to continue to have it all, and those who have nothing will continue to have nothing, and will later on get less than what they currently have. And with the idea, of course, being that what the Capitol is doing for the past 75 years is essentially pacifying the people by putting on a really pretty display. Now, ironically, if you think about this in a current context, we already have a Hunger Games. We just call it Instagram, we call it selfies, we call it, here comes Honey Boo Boo, anything having to do with the Kardashians. Oh, hey, did you see what Miley Cyrus did? We have all the social media outlets that pretty much just inundate us with undeniably useless information. And at the same time, we give everything of ourselves into this conglomerate and pretty much let it dictate everything that it is that we do. On an episode of Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. a while back, they mentioned that the internet and social media was a great way for us to Big Brother ourselves. So, guess what? We're kind of doing this to ourselves to try to make ourselves feel better. And maybe that's why I watch these movies and I leave kind of going, it was a good movie and it was entertaining. However, I prefer to be kind of taken away somewhat from the problems that exist in our current world, as opposed to having a movie that more or less reinforces the problems that are currently going on. The problem, of course, is having to want that level of escapism. I actually am directly reinforcing the ideas based upon that are being displayed in the movie, as opposed to trying to do what the people in the 12 districts, I should say 13, even though they actually discussed the 13th one got wiped out, another one gets wiped out as well. So, good movie, interesting concept. It does just, however, really drive home a point that we're currently in this cycle and, we're not going to get ourselves out. Because the people who end up having control over everything, and by control I mean lightning storms, the ability to have like baboons show up at any point in time, random psychotic birds, poison fog. The people who are in the ability and power to control everything have been put there based upon our overall complacency.